Welcome back to the LJL OU. I am Darksel, delighted to be here with Melvin Izzle for the final two games of the night. It is a blast from the past since we have Axiz versus Sengoku Gaming. It's going to be a banger and a half, Callum. Both these teams love to play around their bottom side, Honey and Gango, respectively. Talk to us a little bit about this matchup.
Well, this is the most encouraging part of the matchup for me as a Sengoku Copium user currently. Currently, they have not
that's
had the
good
best of
copium.
time. Yep, they are 1-3 at the moment for a team that I predicted to be second this split. But let's all take a moment and calm down because they did do this kind of last year where they started off slow and then ramped up nearer the end, all the way up until that upper top four finish that they managed to have in spring. So fingers crossed that they might be able to replicate something like that. It's all about Gango and Enti because this bot lane has looked pretty dominant in basically every matchup they found themselves in. It was only one time last week where they were in I think it was Cog Lulu or it was Cog something, and they kind of got a bit bodied, but that game I pretend didn't happen because it was against Rascal Jesters who were undefeated at the time, and Ramune was getting absolutely bullied in that game.
Yeah, they don't like to help out Ramune in the mid lane at all. If we see them going towards the mid lane, we know that they've been kidnapped. They've sent another player to play in their stead. Ramune just not getting any help whatsoever in that mid lane. And that means it's all about the bottom side. Even for Axiz, they have Teddy, they have Nemo. They're the players that they like to be playing around.
Yeah, that is a bit of a Freudian slip right there. It's Honey who I've called the LJL Teddy right there because
Oh,
they
sorry, I
are.
misread the notes.
That's okay. There's a reason I put it there though, because it is
That's
exactly
true.
like the Jin Air Green Wings times of Teddy, where they are pretty hard stuck on this team. But at the moment, their hard stuck team's doing pretty well. They were just finished off the last cast of it, 3-2. That's a best of 5 victory. I can't wait to see in the draft what they end up putting Honey on because they looked great on Jinx last week.
So, Callum, does it worry you that Axis are on a 3-game win streak? And now they're
Yes.
going against your second
Yes.
place?
Yes, I would be a liar if I didn't say
Very worried. I would
I
be
was
too.
not. The predictions are currently not in my favor. I believe it's only Midnight and myself that are the copium users on the cast for
Yeah.
Sengoku. Everybody else opting for the, it's weird to say, this more reasonable bet of Axis in this matchup. And hopefully, new week, new turn of form for Sengoku is what I'm going to keep telling myself until it goes wrong again. Because now we are on that new patch. There is no Tom Kench currently available at the moment because it is classed as a rework technically. So as soon as we get kicked off into this one, I am ready to see which team gets to put that prio on the bot lane, and more importantly, what we end up seeing happen with Gwen and Viego, because we know Inode plays the Gwen, but Viego between these teams has slipped through a couple times.
Yeah, it has. It doesn't seem like the top laner from Sengoku or even the top laner for Axis actually plays that Viego. It's kind of more mid laners that we would be seeing picking that up. So not really expecting it to maybe be on the ban table or on the pick table because you don't really want to be drafting it just because it's powerful if you aren't feeling comfortable on this champion. And that is a pitfall that we see some teams drop into where they do draft something because it's a powerful pick, but then they're just like, okay, we have maybe 3 games in solo queue on this champion, or we haven't really played it that much in scrims. So I don't like when teams fall into that pitfall. Just because something's powerful doesn't mean you can pilot it to a good enough degree that it actually is powerful.
I believe Pick and Ban will be starting in just a moment. We can finally see if that Viego is going to be acknowledged. First place, we do have that Akali banned away from Axis alongside the Lulu. These are both pretty powerful flex picks in of themselves, responded by that Nocturne that Inno has been piloting, and the Volibear by Sengoku.
Yeah, some flexibility being taken away from both of these sides. The Kali, of course, can go top and mid, and then Volibear and Nocturne also have a bit of flexibility to them. But I'm kind of surprised that we're seeing Axis banning away that Lulu. They like to have that in their team comp. We've seen Megumin on it a couple of times. We saw Inno on it, if I'm not mistaken, in their last game. So they do like to have that flexibility with the Lulu, but they're looking at it, they're kind of like, okay, we don't really want NT to have this power pick at the bottom side. We'll take that away, and the last ban now from the side of SG will be the Diana.
That is the last of that holy trinity of the Morgana, Rumble, and Diana. When those three got super buffs, Diana was kind of the black sheep. They were left out to dry, and now they are finally getting some acknowledgement, as here is the Thresh. This is a champion that I was waiting to see Axiz pick up. It makes perfect sense when all of your eggs are in your ADC's basket. Get them this champion. You can pair it with a Aphelios, Jinx, even the Cogmore to an extent, any hyper carry you want. Give it to Honey, and we'll have to see how they end up supplementing that as Sengoku respond with a pretty good flex pick of Karma along with the aggressive Xin Zhao.
Yeah, we see the mid laners picking up this Karma as well as the supports, so it is quite a good flex pick, and it pairs up with a poke comp and then a protect the AD carry sort of composition as well, and it's not too bad when you're buffing up your Xin Zhao. His early levels are kind of obnoxious, and I like the fact that they're early picking this Xin Zhao, since in the early levels he does have, it doesn't really have that many bad matchups to kind of go even at worst. So good to see that picked up. And that's the Viego that we talked about before. Not really something that we were expecting, but it's been picked up by Axiz.
Finally acknowledged, and is that Triflex, especially with the expected Jinx pickup here. And now it starts to add questions to me, because Viego is not that proactive of an early game champion. Yes, they can skirmish well in the lane depending on matchups, but as a jungler, they usually need a bit of heavy CC, things like the Twisted Fate that helps supplement it, but that doesn't exactly go to Megumin Star. We may even see them end up picking up this champion to supplement that. But the main thing is, that's giving me a bit more hope. I don't see many champions that can really bully Ramune if they're ignored this game, as of current.
Yeah, that's very, very true. The early levels, as you said, for Viego, they're okay, but you're kind of waiting for that scaling. And if Ramune has something safe or something that can punish that early game disadvantage that Viego has, then, you know, it can be quite good. And if you have something maybe like the Orianna that provides team fighting prowess as well, I kind of like that to see that in the hands of Ramune, since, as we already mentioned, they just don't like playing around this poor mid laner. And I know we were talking to Mask Swan before we came on broadcast, and he was saying that Ramune has kind of provided a little bit of problems to the team, and I don't know the specifics of that behind the scenes problems, but it does speak to the fact that he just isn't played around. It's definitely just through Gango and NT in the bottom side.
And you know what, with the revival of LeBlanc coming up, with the mage items being cheapened on this patch, that is going to be one of those safe mid laners that you can actually make things happen independently. Getting rid of that means that Ramune is down one extra string to their bow that they could use as it is. The focus into top lane here with Set and Renekton banned, this is a bit of the subsequent power of picking the Viego for Axiz, because with that Triflex, you can't really ban out any individual role. You just have to ban away champions that seem to really hurt you. And with the Renekton and the Set taken away, that makes me think that that Karma may find their way to top, as these are pretty good champions for punishing it.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, but I don't know how much I like having the Karma in the top side, because I just feel like if she's just on that island up there, and you have to be playing more tank Karma, in my opinion anyway, to kind of warrant the fact that you have that Karma towards the top side. I think she has much more utility being in the mid lane or in the support position. But they are looking to lock in that Orianna. It will get locked in for Megumin in that middle lane, responded to immediately by a Zoe.
Question is, for me, looking at this, is what tools do you have to get the ball into the enemy team? You need a hefty engaged top lane or jungle, depending on where this Viego ends up. Because at the moment, yes, the Orianna is very good for getting the engage follow-up, but now you need a tool like the Wukong that can actually get in there in the first place. Only thing is, you're against an Ezreal, who, no matter which way you put this, is very good at not being caught out. Zoe, rarely going to be that far extended, and then you're looking at Karma and Xin Zhao, who can pretty much just turn off your engage by knocking you away or running away, as got a bit of the Mundo hover. Didn't think that was going to be the case, as we will have that Lee Sin that Paz has piloted twice so far, and they are going to be reprising that champion in the top lane, unless we get some shenanigans with the Xin Zhao on top, but I doubt that'll be the case here.
So what you think of this Lee Sin pick for Paz in the top lane? We've seen this matchup a couple of times throughout the world previously, but it can go either way from what we have seen. It should, on paper, perhaps go in favor of the Lee Sin.
One of the reasons that people do pick up this Lee Sin into specific comps is for that E. Obviously, it's been nerfed a couple times, but the fact that it reveals invisible units, i.e. the Wukong when they try and dip away via their clone, or even the Viego when they run away into their mist, it's a very useful bit of utility that you have in the pocket. That means in wider team fights, it can set up into Zoe bubbles onto targets that you otherwise wouldn't be able to see, and allows you a bit extra safety when playing these fights, because you don't get, well, crept up on, for all intents and purposes, by a Wukong who could ult onto your backline.
You also do a deceptively large amount of damage. You build that Gore Drinker. Well, that's what I've been seeing, at least on this patch, building the Gore Drinker. And then you can build in towards tank, and that makes you deceptively tanky, do a deceptively large amount of damage. And then you have the Insec as well to get onto the targeted carries.
I think that echoes for the rest of the pseudo tanks in this game. The Wukong, Viego, Xin Zhao, and the Lee Sin are all effectively drain tanks for a lot of it, where they will utilize either the Gore Drinker or their inbuilt sustain on the alternate to just try and be in these fights for as long as possible. Likely gonna see that Divine Sunderer on the Wukong. Hasn't been nerfed for melees, is very, very good. So it kind of puts a lot of emphasis for me on this top side, who can get to their first item spikes the quickest, which is interesting when you consider that we're expecting these teams to put a lot of focus on these bot lanes, but neither of which are super interactive.
Yeah, so where does that really leave us with this bot lane focus style? Because it feels like, Sif, as you just said, it's hard to get any ingress into that bottom lane. The Viego, he has his Heartbreaker. Sure, he has a little bit of a dash with the stun on it, but it's not the easiest thing to try and actually get on top of, well, an Ezreal Karma. It's actually rather difficult to do. And then on the other side, you have a Xin Zhao. He has his dash, he has his Crescent Guard, but it's still not the easiest thing to try and pull off.
I think it will definitely be easier for Crash in this game, as they will have the much further gap close. Plus, they do get the speed up from Karma when they gank down there. Taking a look at the initial itemization and rune choices, some important ones. Gango has opted for the cleanse. Does mean that if they were to get tagged by a hook, they will be able to escape that one, which actually does mean that you may get some level of interest to this bot lane, as it looks like we're getting an invade from Sengoku, but it has been fished out by Axiz. This could backfire immediately.
They used the E half to flash respectfully. Might stick around here just to try and take away this red buff. They will back away. They blow the flash to the Xin Zhao.
Really nicely done by Axiz right there, reading that invade with the ward they had down, and responds to it beautifully. Getting that flash away from Crash in this level 1 is so impactful, because it means that now it's a lot harder for them to close the gap for ganks when they do come to this bot lane, and even for the mid lane and top. You can pretty much just get traded in flash now, and you don't get the follow-up. Normally that would result in a kill when a Xin Zhao ganks a lane at level 3, but now it will only result in summoners in most cases.
And Crash is also going to be on a back foot here, because it took him longer to get to his buff, and then he had to start off on his buff to try and complete it. So he's maybe 30 to 60 seconds behind. That's a great hook at the bottom lane. Gango has to try and back away, as NT is going to be the target. He has to flash as well. In comes the teleport, but the first blood is secured by the side of Axiz. In comes the Lee Sin. In comes the Zoe, the double TP, and they get nothing for it.
That was beautiful from Axiz, but this is terrible from Sengoku. The double TPs at this level 2 mark means they're going to be walking back into lane with only 2 abilities. Take a look at this replay. Hoglet, it's a very risky maneuver to go for, but Nemo gets the astounding hook blind right there, and it just means that by right now, NT is in such a pressured scenario. They have to either choose to flash immediately and get as far away as possible, or hold it. And you see here, the excellent lantern placement means that they are never actually in danger, which just, allows them to emote away to safety. Hoglet continues to clear, and this is a 1k gold lead at 3 minutes.
That is atrocious from Sengoku. Double TP, and you get a flash. You burn a flash from Hoglet. That is all that you get. As you said, have to return to lane by walking. You get the kill onto Hoglet, onto a Viego. That is exactly where you want that gold.
Snowballing Viego is a terrifying concept in these fights. If they end up getting one pickup, they can pretty much 1v5 a team fight. We've even seen it a couple times around the world. As now Hoglet, they are the one with free reign of the map. They can decide what they want to do, and it looks like they get a path back into bot side, just continue to full clear. I like this, and the AI, I feel like you may be a few seconds behind there, buddy, because while I do like the comp, it does not seem to have executed well in the first few levels.
The AI is just on the copium as well. He's just like, oh, this copium tastes good. 61% definitely in favor of Sengoku, but yeah, as you
Only
said,
1K.
I think he's a little bit behind here. He's on a little bit of a back foot. It is 700 gold lead. It's only a marginal gold lead, but at 4.5 minutes, this is far bigger than we were expecting.
Now, it has begun to shrink a little bit. It's only hovering in that area. And yes, a bit of gold early is significant, but it's about what you use it for. There's no point having extra gold if you don't spend those items and actually use them to take more aggressive trades, get more done. If anything, I would say the biggest benefit that Axiz picked up from that was actually the XP deficit that now Ramune and Paz will be under for the rest of the game. Not getting level 6 on that Lee Sin, not getting level 6 on Zoe, means that both of them are respectfully a bit more defensive in nature. They can't step up. Zoe can't go for longer range Qs with the paddle star to clear waves, and Lee Sin will not be able to disengage if they are ganked, as oh no.
Another heat-seeking hook onto NT. Has to be a free kill here, but that's a flash away from the Thresh, and Honey picks up the kill. Gets excited, gonna be mowing Gango down. Just gets a lot of chip damage there as well, and rinse and repeat. Flash out of Gango to finish the kill.
2 summoners for 1, but that is going to be the flash off of this Ezreal, and if we continue to see hooks like that, it is only a matter of time before they go down. NT just not playing respectfully behind these minions, going for their trade and then getting the worst end of it here. And I really like the flash that we see from Nemo right here, because it gets them to safety, to mean that Gango has to really, really overcommit if they do want to try and get the return kill, as now there's a skirmish in the Dragon.
Yep, the Dragon was secured by the side of Axiz. That's a flash forward by Megumin to try and keep his support alive. Will manage to do it. NT off to the side. Can't secure anything. Even the Palstar was blocked by Honey.
And this is a level 3 NT walking into level 6 Orianna. You gotta be careful here.
Yeah, Megumin has to try and get away. He gets the Dark Passage to safety, only blowing his flash again. It just comes up Axiz.
This bot lane from Axiz has been insane in the early game. Not only do they manage to secure that dragon, they end up getting a beneficial trade off the fact this game feels like 60% replays at this point, as Crash stumbles in, does not manage to secure the objective as it is last hit by Hoglet. That is tragic. And watch this here, it is just the shockwave to keep them perma-CC'd for just the very minimum amount of time for Nemo to escape. And Ramune, they aren't able to close the gap here, even with the picked up flash, as, again, another Dark Passage saves the day. This has just been astounding from the bot lane of Axiz, and I believe we were talking about in the pre-game, if they get ahead, then game does not look good.
Yeah, definitely. And when Gango loves to play so aggressively, this is the type of player that he is. He wants to be playing around this bot lane or have his team play around him. He wants to play aggressively, but he's on a safe AD carry. He's on an Ezreal. It's more about poke rather than all-out team fighting or all-out skirmishing in the bottom side. And I feel like if there's a little bit of a disconnect in his playstyle with the draft that has been arranged for Sengoku, and it shows in the CS, it shows in the KDA where your 1-0-2 opponent is 10 CS up.
I think it's one of those situations where after that level 2 gank, all your plans kind of just go out the window. It's like the, I believe it's the expression, something along the lines of, you can have as much planning as you want until you get punched in the face. And realistically, Sengoku, they definitely came in with an idea here. You got the Zoe, you got the Ezra, you got the Karma. This is a great poke comp. You even have the double disengage ults of Crash and Paz. You could see it. Late game, even in mid game, they start to come online, just constantly chip away at this Orianna and the Jinx before they get to play fights. But they are not even close to that condition yet, and they need to really start to recover and get at least some plays, because frankly, what we've seen here is it's constant plays by Axiz, and Sengoku just haven't had the chance to respond anywhere, and now Crash may get that chance to do so.
Yeah, Crash is empowered with the shield coming in from the Karma. He goes forward with his E, just trying to chase them down. The poke coming out from Gango doesn't manage to tag onto anyone.
This is all as a matter of fact of having to use those flashes defensively. The first flash got blown when they went for that level 1 invade and it backfired. The second one, Crash used to attempt to steal the dragon and it backfired again. So when you don't have this summoner on the Xin Zhao, it means that you can never really get that final bit of gap to secure the knockup and get a second rotation of abilities that is so essential for this pick.
Looks like Crash is gonna go towards the mid lane here. Can he get onto Megumin though? You have the Everfrost there from Ramune, but once again, they just don't like playing around this player.
Feel like they could have just flashed on them and Everfrosted into bubble. That's just a kill. They know Megumin doesn't have the flash in return, so I completely agree. This is just a factor of not wanting to play around Ramune or some kind of disconnect that they're just having.
And it's really, really sad because so many of the top teams in the world, it's that jungle mid duo. It's the proximity that the jungler has around their mid laner and how they can play around them. A little bit of engage in the middle lane, but I think there isn't really going to be kill pressure. I say that, but so close to going down here. The shockwave just about saving his life. But once again, it is about that jungle mid synergy that so many teams find success with.
And right now we do have the attempted loop around on the bot side, but actually Crash backs off, deciding they aren't going to be able to get to this play in time. Just going to be some plates over to Axiz. Will not be the tower, but trying to dislodge this Ezreal from the bot lane and put Gango in a weird spot. And this is really significant because when you end up taking away the side lane towers against a Zoe, it means that you really have no good lane assignments you can actually do, because Zoe kind of wants to and needs to be in the mid lane because it's the best place for them. They can get the best bubble angles and they can always respond to these fights the quickest. In a side lane, she is a very vulnerable champion who could just get run down by pretty much everybody on the enemy team. So if you kill the bot lane turret early and then send Ramune down there, that is a point of attack you will always have for Axiz, because Gango, as this Ezreal, is almost certainly going to be taking over the mid lane at that point, which, again, shows a lot of intent from Axiz. I really like what they're doing this game, and you know what? They have been surprising, if not shocking, how well they have been doing so far, already equalizing their wins from last split in the first 3 weeks.
It is insane. They even started 0-2. They lost their first 2 games of the split, and then they won the next 3. It is so good from Axiz, and it looks like with this form, this current form, that they will win their 4th game in a row. They're going to give up the second Drake, give the first Drake of the game over to Sengoku Gaming, but you don't really care. You can sack these early Drakes. It's only when you get in towards the 3rd and 4th Drake that you really need to be contesting them.
Oh, the Mountain Dragon rises. This is a very scary prospect for Sengoku, because when you have this poke kind of comp, the recurring shield that you can get if you do pick up the Mountain Soul, and even just the base resistances you get, pay far more dividends when you are against things like the pen shoes that Zoe has picked up, and the fact that Ezreal, yes, they go Divine Sunder, but they don't pick up too much pen themselves. So these poke strategies get hurt a lot against Mountain Dragons. So right now, I want to see Axiz play their lanes out as they are, maybe try and fish for another dive onto bottom lane, but just get a good setup around that next Drake, because that is going to be ever so significant for them trying to secure this game.
Did he just guess that NT was in there, going to dash forward, and there was oh, it was Red Trinket. I didn't even see it. I was too busy looking at the control ward for it.
I think it's still not necessarily the greatest trade in the world. Ezreal ultimate for the Viego ultimate. Obviously, as the Viego, you get to dictate where you go here, but frankly, it is a bit of a scary one now because it takes away a lot of your gank potency without really having that ability to escape if things go completely wrong on a gank. We do see right now that in the bottom lane, there is a ward lurking. So right now, Paz taking a great trade in this top lane. I feel like we haven't even looked up here once, but has been scryed out, so they cannot look to bot.
Yep, might need to flash here. Good shockwave will pull both of them back. Has to flash respectfully because of the bubble. Might be able to get to the blast plan. He has the backup of his team. Hoglet, they're a little too late. In comes the Super Mega Death Rocket, narrowly dodging away by Crash.
I feel like that must have been something like a meteorite or a star you can wish upon, because if I'm not mistaken, that was just a mid-jungle play from Sengoku.
I think it's like Halley's Comet. It only comes by once every 100 years.
Once in a split. Oh no, but if that does actually indicate that they are starting to pay attention to this mid-jungle duo, then that is extremely encouraging for Sengoku and might give them a way back into this game. Paz, that's beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful engage there. Just Sonic Wave, Resonating Strike with the Dragon's Rage. And that's the solo bolo in the top side.
That was beautifully executed, and it is all of a matter of fact of just playing this matchup so well for Paz, taking the counter and dominating on it, actually. 3 plates to 0 in this top side, and it has pretty much just been a straight skill matchup back and forth, because Hoglet and Crash have looked up here maybe one time. I would love to see the jungle proximity for these two, but you won't have time because the proximity's mid.
They're playing around Ramune again. That is so over-aggressive from Crash. He takes yet another tower shot. Hoglet is there to reap the rewards. He takes Crash down. So looking to chase down Ramune, but in the bottom side, the tower looks like it's going to go down.
I feel like we've grabbed onto a monkey's paw here, asking people to play around the mid lane as that backfires hysterically for Sengoku. Trying to acknowledge Ramune, but maybe giving them a bit too much attention, a little bit more space, because now you may end up losing this mid lane turret, but we do have the TP back in to defend it.
I think it's just over-aggression from Crash rather than it being the incorrect play to play around Ramune. I think he was just like, he just saw blood. He saw red. He was just like, I have to go for this. I'm going to go for the tower dive. And he's like, oh, wait, where's my team? Ramune, where are you? And Ramune wasn't there. And he just took 3 tower shots. And he's like, okay, I'm just going to walk up and finish you.
You know what it is? This is the first time this game, effectively, that Crash has got to keep his Flash Summoner up for a while. So he's like, all right, I got it. Let's go. Wait, you guys aren't following? Oh, they really sent it. They just hand-delivered an extra kill into Hoglet's pocket. And you can see now, with that 1 level lead in the jungle, this Viego is getting very close to the 2nd level Heartbreaker, which is a scary concept, because getting that additional bit of damage to try and execute people allows these really disgusting reset fights. When you have a Thresh to pair with that, this Viego is somebody we need to keep eyes on in these fights.
He's already 2-1-1. He has 107 CS. That Divine Sunderer already completed. He's going to be dishing out such huge numbers in the damage charts. Paz towards his top side has to try and defend his top tower. Thresh off to the side, of course, so can put down a decent amount of poke. The Thresh lands his hook. Box goes down. Might be able to pick off the kill here. And Paz surely follows the heal. Nemo picks up the kill.
Oh my god, that was beautiful! The Lantern to counteract the Lee Sin Express right there. As we do take a look, we have got to play onto the bot side low. Mirrored aggression from Sengoku. You love to see it, but they will not be able to get much. It is a trade of towers, but it was not the first of the game. Oh, look at this. Okay, so Paz comes to defend the tower, right? And they do get beautifully hooked again. I feel like these are just point and click, but watch this. They wait to take the lantern until after the kick queue has already happened, so that they end up getting pulled into range, healing Nemo so they are there, and getting the extra reset. Axiz bot lane is actually just cracked this split. These two are playing so well. This is
They're actually smurfing.
Beautiful.
And they do give up the Drake there. It hasn't come up on the board yet, but they gave off the Mountain Drake there to the side of Sengoku Gaming, so they do get that little bit of an advantage there off of that play. But they're still 3,000 gold behind. I think it's 2,000 actually now that I peeked over. They're still 2,000 gold behind at the 17-minute mark. They only have a little bit of an advantage in the Drakes, and they're 2 towers down. So now that we're entering this mid-game point, is it still easier to execute from Axiz, or are they going to start scaling a little bit more once Ramune starts to get some items under his belt, when he can get this poke and obnoxious amounts of burst damage coming from the Zoe? Is it all on him to carry, or are we looking still towards Gango in the bottom side?
I think that as we get further into this game, Gango will get more and more agency. This Ezreal build does get very, very scary 1v9 territory once they start to pick up items. But at the moment for Sengoku, they don't really have anybody with true agency. It's mainly still this top side. Ramune, yes, they can get good picks, and we've seen them be very aggressive, but it's all about the mini-game of keeping this mid lane tower alive, because when this falls, which I believe it likely will on this wave, then you do not have remotely as much map access for this Ezreal Zoe, which takes a lot of power out of the poke comp. So, frankly, considering that you want Ramune and Gango to be your primary carries later on into this game, that is going to be a hefty hit right now, losing that turret.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to try and play out this next phase of the game, especially when Ezreal's only on 1 item to the 2 items that Honey has on this Jinx. You're still waiting for that 3rd item, Power Spike, where you're getting this Frozen Heart build that you like to go versus all these AD champs, and when you have to wait another 10-15 minutes to really get these items online, it feels like it's gonna maybe be a little too late.
Could end up coming online after, most importantly, that Baron, which is up in a minute's time. And if Axiz are able to secure that in a timely fashion, then frankly, the game could just end off of one single set of pushes. You have a hyper-fed Jinx, 2 items deep right now into their build, and they're waiting to hit the fountain now. We may see Honey end up picking up a third item right here. We'll have to find out once they do end up recalling, but all it takes is one snowballed fight off of a Baron buff, and the game just ends in Axis's favor.
Well, Honey has back to pick up that Kirkshire shard, so building towards another energized weapon there. It feels like it might be the Storm Razor or something like that that builds from the Kirkshire shard, but we'll keep our eye on that build as it develops. So now, Manamune now completed into the Muramana for Gango on this Ezreal, so he will be dealing a decent amount more damage with this poke, with the QWE combo. But it still feels like it's not going to be enough. You have one item here and there for Paz and Crash. He also has the Executioner's Calling just to deal with some of this healing coming out from the side of Axiz.
Makes sense, but right now we have a play onto bot.
Yep, goes in with the E, but that is the clone, so just can't really do much with it.
They got to get moving quick, though. This is the issue when you make a play onto bot side. They can always look at the Baron. It has burned the Ezreal ult to fish, and it looks like Axiz are saying, we're just going to keep stealing your jungle, take your resources, and then wait. And the first time you do not have vision on that Baron, we're just going to, start it up, see if you come over. And that is when they're going to look for these point-and-click hooks that we have been seeing at a Thresh all game, and they can just get the individual pick. Because if you get a pick with a Viego and a Jinx on your team, the reset power on this comp is disgusting.
Yeah, it's going to be really obnoxious to try and deal with it. Even Wukong is rotating over now towards this middle lane. Paz, of course, in that top side quadrant, he's just trying to farm up, really, and push out this wave in the top side. Next Drake will be up in the next 43 seconds or so. Feels like both these teams want to play around this objective.
Is reasonable to do so, considering that it has so much power behind it. It would put Sengoku onto a soul point if they manage to secure this one, which is, I'm going to say, an unfamiliar situation of power, considering how this game has been going so far. Every time you see Nemo on screen, you need to be scared, because they could just get these hooks over any wall, and it is disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty terrifying when it does seem point and click, or heat seeking as I like to call them. And I'm looking for it onto Crash here now as the Howard path goes down, and just get a little bit of poke damage coming in from the Ezreal's. Paz goes in onto Inno, but he will just use his clone to get the safety. Crash is now the target. The hook lands once again, and the box goes down. Megumin is the recipient of the kill as Paz. He's the target now of the side of Axiz. He has to flash to get to safety. Here comes the follow-up engage now onto Gango. Uses the Heartbreaker for the follow-up, but the Shockwave finishes him off. Looking for the Zap, will manage to tag onto Enti, but Ramune, he's going to be cut down, and Hoglet steals his life force and his form. They're going to go to the Baron.
It is all about the resets right here, as it is a 5-4-3, and most importantly, they're going to split the objective taking right now. So Axiz, they want to take it all. They are looking right now at both sides of the map, but they have really just sent Nemo down here to get the vision, because you have double TP. As long as nobody dies this Baron, looking at you right now, then they can just get back on and deny the objective. This is so important, because it means that you can keep Sengoku away from that soul. In the meanwhile, while they start playing the map to see how that goes, take a look at here. It starts off with a big Ezreal ult that ends up getting a lot done for the poke aspect, but watch Crash right here. They don't even get to use the Crescent Guard, and guess what? It's from a hook, that thing we're talking about. You're walking into Fog of War, and 100-0'd off of this Thresh hook, which leads to the reset that gives Honey and their jungler Hoglet the way into the fight. Paz, they do a great job trying to escape right here. They take 2 Viego ults in the process though onto Gango, which just allows them to chase down even further. And watch this, over the wall, blows up Ramune, no escape, as there's already a team fight happening.
Yep, we're just straight back into the action. Hoglet, he's the target, but you get blown up! The Jinx doing so much damage. That's the triple kill now for Honey. He is the main carry for this team, getting a quadra kill and almost the ace. Just Ramune up and available to try and defend from this Baron empowered push. 12-4, 23 minutes into the game. It doesn't matter that you have 2 Mountain Drakes and an Ocean Drake. They're just gonna barrel down the middle lane and take your inhib.
I believe they may even go for the end right here. They do not have an ally up. The NT is up soon, but Ramune, it is you against the world.
In comes NT now trying to help out defend the base. They will not manage to pick anyone off on the side of Axiz, but they will save the base for now. They will lose a Nexus tower if I'm not mistaken, and their base has been cracked open.
Okay, we get a replay of the replay of the replay as we see Hoglet lurking around, and we did see that they ended up dying, and this must be Hal getting picked off in the middle of the fight. The God Lantern comes in, but the kick instantly gets them. Oh my lord, that 4-man shockwave into everything that is Honey. So beautifully done. Instant reset city just ends up in walking down mid lane, and it is all but history from there.
4-man shockwave just into the rockets from Honey. Super Mega Death Rocket putting in the work as well. Look at that damage chart.
Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Between these two members, they eclipse everything that Sengoku responded with right there. In fact, doing a little bit of quick maths right there, it looks like Honey was very close to just eclipsing the entire enemy team's damage on their own.
Honey on their own almost did more damage than Ramune, Crash, and Paz put together. Almost. There's only about 300 or 400 in it, I think.
Absolutely broken, as they will be walking down the spot lane with that Storm Razor in tow. Frankly, I feel like they could even buy a Zhonya's at this point, and Honey would still be max DPS in this game, as it is just a matter of Sengoku try to keep the waves cleared. I like this bubble that comes down, but it is a very defensive response, saying, no matter what, we are not throwing this game away. Axiz are coming into this just reinvigorated, frankly, after their insane 40-minute slogfest last game.
And I feel like that box was really like top level there, because a lot of people wouldn't be dropping the box in that situation. You're hit by a bubble, you're like, okay, I have the team around me, they won't be going for the engage here. They're like, okay, I can burn this cooldown, it'll be back up in the next 60, 80 seconds maybe. It's not that long of a wait. You can just drop this box. Next time we're going to be fighting, it will be back off cooldown, so it is worth blowing it. Instead of risking actually them going for the engage and maybe throwing.
No greed present, completely agree. Does enable them to just play the safest game possible when you are this team that came into the split with, I'm going to say, not only low expectations, but basically no expectations. Yes, you had some promising performances, but when your main carry of Honey is being classified as Elo held on your team, frankly, you don't really have many thoughts towards Axiz that go, yeah, sure, they're going to be able to pull away games from our best in the league. They're going to be able to get, presumably, I think this puts them in a solid third place if they take away this game right here, depending on how V3 end up for the rest of the day. Could even end up going joint second if Sengoku get a return to form next game.
Yeah, I can't wait for next game, but we'll have to hold on until the end of this game before we start discussing that, as Harapath gets put down, looking for some form of in here, but not managing to find anything. Nemo taking a lot of health damage there from the Pal Star of Ramune.
This is why the Baron buff is so important against Ezra or Zoe comps, because without Baron, their wave clear, pretty damn good. They're able to hold your arm's length for the whole time, and as you see here with the Xin Zhao and the Lee Sin, they could disengage anybody that steps too far up and just run away after. But right now, we have got people lurking on the side. Watch Inno here on the Wukong. They are ready to go in with the Flash and the Cyclone ready to go.
Yeah, just trying to clear away any of this vision, trying to be established by Sengoku Gaming here. Gango has to try and get some damage down, but that's the hook onto Paz. Not looking for the engage just yet. We'll manage to get the disengage there from Sengoku, and no team wants to pull the trigger and be the one to cost them the game.
When you're 10k gold down, you need to get a decisive fight off of picks, but Sengoku, no vision control allowed, so beautifully played by Axiz. Again, they have the mid-inhib default pushing for them, and because they're all just standing there saying you can't approach, it means that nobody's actually shoving out bot. So there's just no way Sengoku can approach this to get vision. Look at the minimap right now. That entire bottom side quadrant right there for Sengoku's jungle is just coated in blue control wards. And the best part is, because of the staggered respawn timers of that mountain and the Baron, now Axiz get to reset and under no cost whatsoever, walk back on the map and do it all again topside.
Crash manages to pick up that Rift Skull Shrine, so it's a kind of a saving grace for them. They will know that if it gets started off, you can't have Axiz clearing away that little bit of vision. But it just feels like as if it's hard to contest this Baron take if Axiz were to start off on it. You're going to be trying to maybe poke them down. True Shot Barrage coming through Ramune, of course, with the Pal Star can do a lot of work with it. But when you have a Xin Zhao, you either need to Blast Plant over the Flash
no.
out or Ramune.
Um,
Okay. Just a little bit of, maybe I'm tabbed out watching YouTube or something, but Ramune, he has to portal back. No choice in that whatsoever. Will get picked off by Hoglet with the solo bolo.
question is, do they look for the grouped fight here off of a Shockwave?
Another beautiful hook. You cannot stop Nemo. If you do anything, he will hook you. Crash now has to try and get away. He uses his ultimate, but he is dead to rights here, making him the recipient of that kill. And with Crash and Ramune dead, it feels like the game is dead in the water. Just go push down this top lane. Maybe take that inhib in the middle lane as well.
They are point and clicking. I feel like I've said it about 10 times this game, but when you watch them so consistently land these hooks under every circumstances except for that right there, they are just impressive beyond belief as they chase down.
It's just a zoning hook, and they don't need hooks where they're going. Jinx gets excited, finds the double on the fountain, look for the triple, will in the end find it. Only Ramune up and available to try and defend, looking for the quadra kill, forced to use his flash. He still has his flash available, but he can't go anywhere but the very back of the fountain. That will be it. Axiz take their third win in a row. Fourth win in a row.
You might as well look like Jinx that game if you are a Axiz fan, because you should be excited. They have eclipsed their win rate of last season, and they've just finished week 3. They last split 4 wins got teams into playoffs. Axiz could theoretically make playoffs off of this week right now, even if they were to do a horrendous slump for the rest of the split. So beautifully done, excellently played, and considering that this team just came off of that 40-minute last game, beautiful.
Look how happy the players are. The players are ecstatic. A sigh of relief was breathed by one or two of them. They're just like, oh, yes, we got the win. We beat Sengoku, even though Sengoku are at the bottom of the table right now. You have to be able to beat the bottom of the table to really know that you can beat the top of the table at some point.
When you consider that the 2 games that they did not win in that first week were against V3, who we'll be seeing next game, and Rascal Jester, who are, for all intents and purposes, our top 2 teams in the league, this firmly cements Axiz as what basically our third place team is what they effectively are right now. Going from bottom of the standings to third place with so many rookies on your squad. The pure force of this team is just impressive to keep watching. And oh boy, I cannot wait to see what they can keep rolling with this, because if they can keep this pressure up, they are well suited to make it into playoffs with a actually quite high spot.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what I'm impressed by most is that it's Nemo's rookie year, and you would not imagine that seeing how they played on that Thresh that game. Heat-seeking hooks, landing hook after hook after hook on priority targets as well. In that last team fight, the engage found by Nemo was onto the Ezreal, even though he was body blocked by 2 other players. If I was playing against him in solo queue, I'd be like, okay, this guy is smurfing hard, scripting or smurfing hard. No matter what elo I'm in, whether it's bronze or challenger, I'd be, okay, this guy's either scripting or really turbo smurfing. Like, challenger smurfing and challenger smurfing.
Smurfing in LJL is what we're seeing right here. So
100%.
dominant. And their lead that we saw Axiz pick up came off of one of those hooks at level 1. They managed to dip into Fog of War, get a blind hook, get the excellent follow-up after that, and it was just such perfect synergy. You could make a highlight reel for this bot lane off of this game alone. It was perfect synergy with the 2 of them, and honey, it might be coming home.
It's coming home to Axiz, and I am ecstatic for them. A 4-game win streak after going 0-2 and then getting 3 wins last split. I mean, that is the most important tagline for this team at this point is we're week 3. They have beaten, by 1 game so far, they've beaten their scoreline from last split. That is exactly what you want to be seeing, and it doesn't look like they're going to be slowing down.
The form is keeping up, and speaking of form keeping up, let's hope for the copium users in the room that Sengoku can turn it around next game against V3. I believe we'll throw to a very quick break, and then we can Well, then we can see the performance, because I'm sure it will be a show one way or the other. We are expecting a very quick one next, but let's find out firsthand.